Coming to you live from the fabulous MediaPlex in downtown Windsor, this is a St. Clair College journalism presentation.
Good evening, I'm Jolene Perrin, and you're watching MediaPlex News Now. PC leader Tim Hudak is urging the government not to give in to all of Chrysler's demands. The auto company is looking to make a $4 billion investment at its plants in Windsor and Brampton. CEO Sergio Marchionne is asking for the government to help with funding. Previously, Premier Kathleen Wynne said the Liberal government has invested in auto companies and will continue to do so. Marchionne said he is threatening to pull Chrysler out of Canada if the Ontario government does not make a sizable investment, as previously suggested. Now let's take a look outside to our weather expert, Sean Preble. I'm looking for good news, Sean. Now please tell me that spring is on the way.
Well, Jolene, I thought we had done away with this bitter cold with the warmer weather last week, but it looks like spring still has a way to go. Right now we're sitting at -5 with partly cloudy skies, and tonight we're looking at -12 with even more clouds. Unfortunately, tonight is not going to be the coldest part of this week, and I'll be back later in the show to update you and our viewers what to expect in the weather this week in my extended forecast. For now, back to you in that cozy studio, Jolene.
Today on 5 Minutes With, Mitch Wendt spoke with Yvonne Pilon, Vice President of WeTech Alliance.
Hi, I'm Mitch Wendt, and you're watching 5 Minutes With. Today I talk with Yvonne Pilon about a recent video contest for sitting down with lunch with David Chilton. So Yvonne, you're Vice President of WeTech Alliance. You've been involved with Startup Canada. What else have you been involved with?
So as you said, I'm involved with Startup Canada, so very involved in the entrepreneurial community. But on a broader level, I work with the Chamber of Commerce for the annual Business Excellence Awards. I've also been involved with International Children's Games, and soon to be chairing the Marketing and Promotions Committee for the Ontario Games coming this August. So very involved from a broad range, but my heart and soul really goes out to startups and the new business community.
Nice. What are some of your personal achievements?
Personal achievements, so that's a great question. Just I guess being a young professional and staying in Windsor, I think that's a huge achievement for myself. I love our community, and I hope to grow in this community. And, I think just having supporters and mentors, I think that's a personal achievement. And I was the 2013 recipient for the University of Windsor's Alumni Odyssey Award this year, so that was a great honor.
Awesome. So getting to the lunch with David Chilton, how many people submitted videos to him?
So phase 1 of the contest was just submitting hey, I'm interested in this contest. And phase 2 was submitting a video. So there's 12 finalists, and it was a 2-minute video basically telling about you, what's your passion, if you had a business, what it is, and why you should be chosen to have lunch with David Chilton. And for those of you who don't know, David is the dragon on Dragon's Den, and also the author of The Wealthy Barber, which is a very, very popular business book.
So the big question, where will you go for lunch?
So if you watch my video, I would also like to extend this opportunity to the tenants of the Downtown Business Accelerator. Sitting down with David Chilton to talk about, that important word, entrepreneurship, and building an entrepreneurial community. So if they choose and pick me, and I can extend that to the tenants, I think I'd bring in Hamazing, actually. If you all know, Hamazing did make it onto the Dragon's Den. I don't think they were aired, but they did make it to kind of the production side of it. So I think it'd be kind of cool to bring in a local business who's actually met the Dragons and have them cater our lunch. So fingers crossed they choose me, but if not, we can still have a Hamazing lunch.
So being one of the finalists, what would you like to talk to him about and why?
Well, I love entrepreneurship. I started a company a few years ago, but it didn't really get momentum. But I do see myself as an aspiring entrepreneur. So kind of just asking questions, what's it like to be an entrepreneur? What are the biggest challenges? Give me some tips, Again, what's coming up? What do you see the big opportunities being in the world of entrepreneurship? And also, again, building an entrepreneurial community. That's how, cities thrive on new business and entrepreneurship. So getting some tips. What's being done in Kitchener, what he's doing, and what's being done globally, because he is a business guru.
So how do you think his knowledge could help the Downtown Windsor Business Accelerator?
I think it's just, having, he's kind of like that star figure to come down to Windsor. So I think, again, he can have just giving tips and tricks in the challenges of entrepreneurs and what they face. So I think just having him here and sharing some insight will be very valuable.
When is the finalist announced?
Middle of March, I've been told. So fingers crossed. And like I said, I'm sure if he chooses, or if they choose me, the company that's running the contest, I'm sure everyone will know via social media.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm Mitch Wendt, and you've been watching 5 Minutes With.
In the tight-knit Windsor arts community, artists have to support one another. A 3-day music and photography event at Fog Lounge over the weekend saw them doing just that. Darren Breckles tells us more.
It's always a challenge to promote yourself as an artist in Windsor. Julia Lynn Monk found a novel way to do just that. She organized a 3-day art, photography, and music event called Photopalooza at Fog Lounge over the weekend.
Photopalooza actually came about as I was working on a cruise line as a photographer. And I love the traveling, but I hated the job. So I basically, I want to continue to travel. Money's kind of tight. Windsor's got a tough economy, so I decided to put together an event that's not only going to help me fundraise, but it's also going to promote myself as a photographer and artist, and it's going to help my friends that are in bands around Windsor and Essex County.
For the show, Julia created original artworks based on 1990s themes, using found and recycled household materials as canvases. For playing the event, the bands get free photos of their set from Julia. She gets to keep some of the door money and sell her art to help finance a photo trip across Europe. Saturday night's headline act, Bleach, say the event is a great way to network, play their music, and help promote themselves with free publicity photos.
Well, we've been playing in the scene for a couple of years now, and the biggest thing to help us branch out is to help each other out as musicians, as artists. So when she came to us saying that she wanted to promote herself and help us out a bit, we jumped on the chance.
With 9 bands over 3 nights, it was a great weekend for art, photography, and music, all under one roof, with artists helping fellow artists. For MediaPlex News Now, I'm Darren Breckles.
Thank you.
Here at the MediaPlex, we love to help the community. Alice Hewitt is live in the studio with special guest Christine Wilson-Furlonger to explain how Windsorites can donate to a good cause.
Thanks, Jolene. I'm here with Christine Wilson-Furlonger, the administrator over at Street Help. Now, Christine, what is Street Help?
Street Help is Windsor's only homeless drop-in center. We provide sleeping bags when needed, clothing, hygiene products, anything a homeless person is going to need to survive. We also, more importantly, too, provide food all day long. We have the only breakfast program, 9 till 11, and from then on, we serve hot meals all day until 6 p.m.
Great. Now, how many people does Street Help see on average?
About 120 people was our normal. We're going up to about 200 people a day now.
Now, how is it funded?
We have no government funding. We're funded solely on donations from people in the community that want to help to keep our doors open, our rent paid, our utilities paid. We're all volunteers, so it's not a huge amount, but it's necessary.
Now, you're looking to purchase a new appliance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, with all that cooking that we do from 9 till 6 every day, we've really taken our little stove and abused it quite a bit. It's given us quite a bit of good meals, though, but its time has come to be replaced. And so we're looking for something that's a lot more cost efficient. It's going to bring that utility bill down and help us to continue to provide that kind of food service to people.
So how can Windsorites step up and help fund this project?
People, if they would like to write us a check, drop off a donation to us, we're at 964 Wyandotte Street East. They can call me at area code 519-977-9200, and I'll give our mailing address as well.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us today,
Thank
Christine.
you.
Back to you, Jolene.
Thank you, Alice. Now it's time to show a little support. 7-year-old Aubrey Andre is battling with leukemia, a cancer of the white blood cells. Originally from Leamington, Aubrey is currently being treated at a hospital in Alberta. This Friday, everyone is encouraged to wear yellow and purple to support this little girl. Yellow denotes support for cancer research, while purple is simply Aubrey's favorite color. For more information on Aubrey's condition and to show your support, visit aubreysangels.ca. We had a special guest in the studio today. Super Bowl champion and local boy Luke Wilson stopped in to talk with sports reporter Kyle Simpkins.
Luke, thanks for joining us here today.
Appreciate you having me.
Obviously, you're a busy guy. I mean, how much has your life changed since you became a Super Bowl champion?
You know, a lot more media stuff and that kind of thing, but it's fun and it's a cool experience to me personally, and to have that attached to my name, a Super Bowl champion, is a pretty cool. It still hasn't really sunk in yet, so I can't complain about it at all.
You obviously have the athletic ability, but there's so many people that have the athletic ability to make it in the NFL. Who instilled the work ethic in you to maintain it and stay in the NFL and get through Division I college?
I attribute a lot of that stuff to my dad, and actually now I say both my parents really. Just the kind of the way I was raised and the upbringing I had. My dad was a pretty good athlete growing up here in Windsor, and just some chats he gave me when we were younger, and even times when I was at Rice in college. I remember one camp I was really struggling, kind of going through some adjustments, and he actually flew down there and kind of spent a couple of days, and just little things like that really kind of pushed me through to keep working and keep grinding through all the tough times.
You mentioned Rice. How much of a culture shock was it moving from LaSalle, Ontario to Texas, to Houston, to play football, where football is king?
That was something that people always ask me, what's the toughest part, and going down to college. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that were challenging with the football, but like you said, it's really just a completely different culture, and you go from LaSalle to, we were smack dab in Houston, Texas, 5 minutes from downtown, right in the medical center. And I really enjoyed my time there, but it's just things are different, and it kind of gives you a different perspective on the world. Even though again, it's not like you move to a different continent or anything, but just going that far, I really had a hard time kind of adjusting to just even cultural and social norms. But like I said, I'm really glad I did it, and I've had that experience, and it's at the end, I made some of my best friends down there. It's been kind of cool for me.
Take us back to the first time you stepped onto an NFL field.
Yeah, it was a pretty surreal experience. The first time I was on an NFL field was a preseason down in, we went to San Diego, and at the time, Zach Miller, our starting tight end, was injured in camp. So I was out there for the first drive of the game, and it's one of those things where you don't really have time to sit back and be in awe. But now that I've done some reflecting, I was sitting there, I'm a 23-year-old just coming out of Rice, like you said, kid from LaSalle, Ontario, and you sit out there in the huddle, and you got Russell Wilson across from you, and I don't think Marshawn was playing that game, but numerous times
surrounded by superstars, right?
Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin, Sidney Rice, and I'm just like, wow. But at the same token, though, when you get around those great players, it really propels your game as an athlete, to try and match their level. So I think it was a really a big help for me.
It took 14 weeks, but you got your first NFL touchdown. Take us back to that.
It's a funny story, actually, because it's a play-action route, and I actually have an option to kind of keep it on the over or go straight up the near hash. I know that's a little football term for the fans that don't know football, but it's based on it's a coverage read. And I was looking at the far safety, and he bit so hard on the play-action run that I thought it was a cover 3, which means the middle of the field was closed, and I kept it on the over. And watching it again on film, the safety just kind of was out of position, and it was a blatant misread by me. But Russ adjusted, and thankfully, with the huge play action and the bite by the safety there, I was able to catch that ball and kind of made things a little more difficult on myself. But it was pretty cool. As I was crossing the goal line, it was a pretty euphoric moment.
Not to mention you burned Patrick Willis on the play, which was pretty sweet. Yeah. At what point on the sidelines during the Super Bowl did you and your teammates oh my God, we're going to win this game?
For me, I think it was when Percy Harvin returned the kick in the third quarter. Because, you never know with Peyton Manning. And we were up, I believe, 22-0 going into the second half. And I was like, we need to make sure we get through this third quarter and keep rolling and keep our foot on the gas. And you could tell when they kicked that ball off and we scored, it just took the wind. Anything left they had, it was pretty much gone, and it was pretty much smooth sailing from there.
One more thing real quick. What's next for Luke Wilson?
Hopefully we can put together a dynasty at Seattle and keep winning and stacking up these championships.
All right, Luke, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Luke Wilson may have made it to the Super Bowl and won, but it always helps to have a great coach. Kyle Simpkins also sat down with Wilson's high school coach, Glenn Mills, in this edition of 5 Minutes With.
We're joined with President and Head Coach of the Essex Ravens, Glenn Mills. Glenn, thanks for joining us here.
Oh, thank you.
Now, we talked a little bit before the Super Bowl and a little bit after the Super Bowl about how excited you were to have coached someone who was going to play and then someone who actually won the Super Bowl. Has it set in now that you have actually coached someone who's got a Super Bowl ring?
You know what? It is honestly still hard to believe. I was kind of looking back at things. It's kind of been a little bit of an overwhelming year for myself and the Ravens. We had one of our teams in the championship. We had 3 other teams in the Western Conference Finals, and then we had 3 players in the Grey Cup, and then Luke to play in a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. Which from one organization is kind of crazy. So it's been a great year, and it's great to see our coaches and our programs doing great things for people. And like I said, it's been a great year all the way around.
Now, Luke's not the only athlete from this area who's in the NFL. Tyrone Crawford plays for the Dallas Cowboys. How hard is it for an athlete coming from the Canadian game to transition into American football?
You know what? I don't know if it's so much hard to transition. What it is, it's just it's a stereotype of Canadian kids that they believe that they're inferior and that maybe they can't compete at that level and they haven't been tested and things like that, which is really frustrating. I took a group of kids down to the International Bowl in Arlington, Texas. We played at Cowboy Stadium. Actually, it was a whole bunch of group of kids from Ontario, and I used that exact message about they don't believe we belong here. They don't believe we should play here. And not only did our kids go out and get fired up, we beat them, which has been the first time in a long time. And I think next year they'll probably be a little bit more fired up to knock us off. But that's all it is. I think we have a lot of kids that can compete at that level. They just have to get that opportunity.
Now, talent assessment is one of the things that just boggles my mind with athleticism or with athletics. Was Luke a standout right from the get-go when he was with the Ravens? Did you know he had the capability to go that far?
You know what? I actually first seen Luke when I coached him at Villanova High School, and you know what? Right when he came in, Luke was just a gifted athlete. You call those kind of guys, and the word they use is kind of a freak athlete. He could do it all. He played soccer, baseball, football, track and field, hockey, you name it, he did it, and he did it as good, if not better than anybody. He's just a very, very gifted and well-rounded young man. I mean, at school, he does fantastic. He has it all going for him.
What's he like on the personal side of things? Like you were just mentioning, he'd show up with his Under Armour sponsor and he'd, hand out things to the kids. How much do the kids love when he shows up to a practice? You know what? The great thing about Luke, the great thing about a lot of our kids is they come back and they take the time to talk to the kids, to sign things, to work with the kids. Luke was at several of our games this year and actually spent the time to sign a lot of things for kids, which a lot of people forget, right? And Luke's great at that stuff. So what's next for you and the Essex Ravens?
We're going to get ready for our spring camp coming up in April, and then we'll get right into full camp around the 3rd week of April, and then we get going into our season. So we're just around the corner from, like I said, a great season, I believe, that's going to happen this year. So.
All right, I want to thank Glenn Mills, President and Head Coach of the Essex Ravens. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now let's take a look at that full weather forecast. Sean Preble is outside on the corner of University and Victoria, and I'm sure he is freezing.
I am indeed freezing, Jolene, and I think since we last talked, not only has it started snowing, but it's even colder. To be honest, I wish it were this day back in 2002, where Windsor saw a spring-like 15 degrees. Now, as I mentioned, what we're experiencing now is just the tip of a frigid week ahead. Tomorrow, we're going to see partly cloudy skies with a high of -9 and low of -13. Thursday, we'll see a high of -11 with a low capping out at -17 with snow flurries moving back into the area. And then we'll end February with a partly cloudy -10, but a very cold low of -20. So this week, I know I'm going to be bundling up when I go out, and I can only hope everyone else does the same. But for now, I'm coming back in to warm up. Jolene, back to you, my friend.
Thank you, Sean. Now, while it might be too cold to break out your bike just yet, Rick Dawes explains in his documentary it doesn't hurt to show a little love to your two-wheeled friend.
Everyone has places to go, but it's how you get there that matters. For some, their mode of transportation becomes a lifestyle. Hi, I'm Rick Dawes. Many people have ridden a bike, but some people fall in love with them. Why is that? And what constitutes a relationship with a bicycle? Well, I'm going to introduce you to some people who have a modern-day affair with bikes, a mutual one, and one that stems from way back. Let's start off with somebody who's grown up with bikes. Let's go.
My first bike was a birthday present. I would have been, let's say, like 10-ish early years. It was a CCM, yeah, it was a CCM BMX. That was it, that was the one. Oh yeah, I was always on a bike. I don't know. As a kid, my parents didn't like drive me anywhere, right? It was just like, hey, you want to go to Jimmy's? Take your bike. Yeah, I usually have a bike to work every day, and then besides that, I just go to my girlfriend's. She's downtown, so it's a lot easier than paying for parking and then just bring my bike right into the apartment.
This bike gets him around, and in return, Andrew keeps it in tip-top shape.
Well, I mean, it's always washed, constantly wiping it down. Chain's always oiled, everything's true. Brakes are always checked. It's regularly maintained. I think that's the biggest step. Tires are always full. Every couple months I lubricate the bearings and the rims. That's about it. It doesn't really need too much more than that.
Maintenance is one way people invest time into bicycles. Innovation over the years is another way. From the 1800s came the Luft machine, or running machine. Imagine this, a crude bike frame with seat and wheels, but your legs hung so that you could run and then coast. Not ideal. After that came the velocipede, and this one had pedals, but it still wasn't perfect yet. By 1885, the safety bicycle was created. Not too high up, balanced and chain-driven, this might be the oldest ancestor to what we consider the modern-day bicycle. If it's a relationship we speak of, then the city cyclery must be a matchmaker. Located in Windsor's Walkerville area, the city cyclery connects the utilitarian urban cyclist with a machine perfect for their needs. Chris Holt is a co-owner with Ron Droulard and Stephen Hargraves.
So yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm to say that you can love your bike. You put a specific handlebar on it because it's more comfortable for you. You put a specific light on it because it appeals to you. So you spend a lot of time after the initial purchase of the bike to custom fit your bike just to you.
Recently, the shop moved down the street to a bigger, more central location.
Cycling's always been, I think if you want to go way back, you know, the sort of the initial freedom that you get as a child. Something that really appeals to me about cycling is it fosters a deeper sense of community. You get on your bike and you start riding your bicycle around your neighborhood, you're interacting more with what's going on in your neighborhood. You're open to the sights and smells and tastes of your neighborhood.
Positive relationships are constructive and they move people or things forward. And we aren't talking about cycling innovation here anymore. What about the city you live in? Or the idea of a green existence? Well, bikes and people have the ability to change the streets and the lives of those who ride them. Joan Murphy Walker was named Windsor's very first bike commuter of the year, made as an example. I interviewed her here a few months ago in Jackson Park. Growing up, Joan always wanted a bike, but with 7 siblings, it just wasn't possible. Then, in her mid-20s, her husband got her one for her birthday, and with no car and 6 kids, that became her vehicle.
He set me up with a regular bike seat on the crossbar, then I could put one on there, and then I had a baby carrier on the back. So I was either always pregnant or one with on the back, so I'd have 3 kids somewhere on the bike, and we went all over town.
What would bring Windsor's cycling community to the next level? I mean, what are we lacking? What's the most important thing that cyclists need?
I think if you put the pathways out there, and people will use them. This community they're so into cars that I think it just take time. But if you put the paths where they need to be, you know, for commuting, then they'll get you. So people have to feel safe.
Well, maybe you already have a bicycle whose company you enjoy, but if not, take one home today and you'll end up thanking yourself. Befriend a bike, set an example. You'll benefit in the wallet, the waistline, and maybe even in your free time. But like anything worth maintaining, cycle commuting isn't easy and there will be challenges. But our friend the bike will always keep moving us forward as long as we keep pedaling. I'm Rick Dawes and thanks for watching.
For a closer look at the recent news in music, Adam Albaba produced this Music Minute.
Welcome to the third edition of Media Blender, providing news and views and information you can use here in Windsor, Essex. I'm Adam Olbaba, and I'm here today to give you the music news you need to be up to date, including the Brit Awards, Arts and Crafts' new tour lineup, and my personal Album of the Week recommendation. Before we dive into the news though, did you know that Canadians listen to the radio for an average of 5.5 hours per week? I don't know about you, but that sounds a little light for me. Let's take a look into what music is trending this week though. Sitting at the top of Canada's top 40 charts is Katy Perry's Dark Horse. Moving up to the second spot is A Great Big World's Say Something, featuring Christina Aguilera. And sitting at third is One Republic's Counting Stars. In terms of the Billboard Canadian Top 100 chart, the lineup is the same. There's nothing different to it. Now on to the news. The 2014 Brit Awards were last night. This year's saw performances from Katy Perry, Pharrell Williams, Bruno Mars, Nile Rodgers, the Arctic Monkeys, and even Beyonce. All great acts, all really great acts, but David Bowie ended up stealing the show and wasn't even there. He was named British Male Artist of the Year for his first album in a decade the next day. Arctic Monkeys added another surprise to the night, taking home 2 big trophies. They won Album of the Year for AM and Best British Group for the 3rd time, making history. Quite the big deal. One Direction took home Global Success Prize for the 2nd year running. Lorde was named Best International Female Artist, and after his amazing performance at the Super Bowl, Bruno Mars took home trophy for International Male Solo Artist of the Year. Arts and Crafts have recently announced the new lineup for this year's Field Trip Festival. Being the 2nd year, this festival features a plethora of music, art, photography, technology, and even fashion. And this year's stages will be filled with Broken Social Scene, Interpol, The Kills, The Darcys, and many, many more. For more information and to see that full lineup, you can check out arts-crafts.ca. Now, the beginning of the year can sometimes be slow for big releases. So this week's album recommendation is one of my personal favorites. It was released last year and it's by the Darcys. It's titled Warring. It's a great Canadian album, great Canadian band, and I highly recommend it. You can even check them out at this year's festival. However, that is all the time we have for this edition of Media Blender. I hope that was some views and news that you can really use. To keep updated with us, follow us at SCC Media Blender. Until next time, I'm Adam Olbaba.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jolene Perrin, and you've been watching MediaPlex News Now.
MediaPlex News Now is a production of the St. Clair College Journalism Program.